We thank you that there are remedies available, that there is instruction that you have given so that we might indeed prosper and be in good health, even as our souls prosper. Bless us today. Bring others to the platform, I pray. Bless the good doctor as he shares, and may we come out of this session benefiting from the information because you have blessed us. We ask these mercies in Christ's name. Amen and amen. But again, we want to say thank you on behalf of all the staff and the team that are putting on this program. And we want to let you know that it's now time for our quiz. And our quiz master is none other than Roslyn Mingo. Good morning, Roslyn.
Good morning, Pastor. Good morning, everyone. Hello, good morning. Okay, good morning. Before we get into the quiz, there's just a couple things that I wanted to mention. We know that if the internet and technology is a wonderful thing when it's working properly, but sometimes there are glitches. We know that some of you have had some challenges receiving the materials each week for whatever reason. So you may have gotten an email, or you should have gotten an email that said that the materials are also now available on the Somerset SDA Church.org website. So you can go there and receive all of the previous sessions as well as the quizzes, and of course the current session. So if you've had challenges receiving the information, you can go to somersetSDAchurch.org and receive that. Also, you can check YouTube as well if you wanted to go back and review. One other note, a couple weeks ago, we had Sister Teresa who shared how the NEWSTART experience has been helping her. So we wanted to open that up to any of you who would like to share how the NEWSTART, adopting the NEWSTART principles have helped your life. If you're interested in doing that, you can contact our admin at info@somersetSDAchurch.org. And of course, if you have any questions regarding the quiz or anything else, any of the information, you can please place the information in the chat for Dr. Gibbons, as well as send it to our website. Okay, so let's get started with the quiz. Okay, this is from session 4, which was about obesity. Question number 1, a BMI level of 30 or above is obese, while a BMI level between 18.5 and 24.9 is normal. That is true. Number 2, 3 out of every 4 adults in Bermuda are obese. That's false. Number 3, Bermuda is number 2 out of 36 countries with the highest percentage of overweight and obese adults. That's false. Number 4, according to the STEP study, 33.7% of Bermudians drink 1 to 2 sugary drinks a day. True. Number 5, 4 out of every 5 Bermudians do not eat enough fruits and vegetables. True. Number 6, 1 out of every 4 adults in Bermuda is physically inactive. True. Number 7, while the US weight loss industry is making billions of dollars every year and is projected to grow by 2.6% annually through the year 2023, we do not see corresponding projections of declining rates of obesity due to these weight loss services. That is true. Number 8, 2 cups of strawberry ice cream have as much calories as 44 cups of strawberries or 11 stomachful of strawberries. That is true. Number 9, by consuming a low energy dense diet, you can eat more food than someone on a high energy dense diet and still take in less calories. That's true. Number 10, by starting your meal with a low calorie dense salad, lettuce, tomato, cucumber, celery, you could reduce your calorie intake in that meal by 200. That's true. Number 11, by preloading your meal with a large apple or a bowl of chunky vegetable soup, 175 calories, you could lower your calories intake of that meal by 300 calories. True. Number 12, when the calorie amounts for the days are the same, eating a large breakfast is associated with significantly more weight loss than eating a large supper. True. Number 13, poor sleeping habits can lead to hunger, cravings for sugar, and fat. True. Number 14, walking 70 minutes a day briskly, 6 days a week, represents an amount of exercise that has been associated with those who have lost significant weight and kept it off. True. Number 15, garlic powder, black cumin seed, and cumin have all been shown in scientific studies to reduce body weight or body fat. True. Number 16, dark greens can reduce the urge for sweets and chocolate, as well as increase weight loss. True. Number 17, high fiber foods cannot influence how much we eat or desire for high energy foods, fat burning, or the energy we expend. That is false. Number 18, the opioids produced by eating high sugar, high fat foods can relieve pain or stress and calm us down, but these effects are not, are not long lasting. That's true. Number 19, low carb diets such as the Atkins diet is a healthy weight loss program with long-term benefits. That is false. And number 20, a food addiction is a relationship with food that gives the illusion that real needs are being met through a mood change. That is true. Okay, and if you've missed any of the answers to today's quiz, you can watch it again at the Somerset Seventh-day Adventist Church website, as well as on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for participating.
Well, thank you, Rosalyn, for that quiz. I can see folks now saying I got 100%, and I'm going to make sure I send in those results. There's some powerful information and a lot to consider. And people are trying harder, but still not getting the results. We trust and pray that as you stay with this stuff, that you stay with this program, you will hear solutions that will help us all in our struggle for weight loss and all of these ills that plague us today. I think we're ready now, Razia, for our question and answer period. Let's thank Razia Swan now to bring us into the Q&A period.
Good morning, everyone. We're ready to ask our questions. And here we go. Dr. Gibbons, which is the best oil to cook, heat with, flaxseed oil or coconut oil or another oil?
Okay, this question, let me answer it several ways. Now, the less oil we consume, the better we are all together. Perhaps the worst method of cooking is deep frying, and that's been associated with a lot of different, health risks. One of the studies I was looking at, they were looking at what we call rancidity, when an oil becomes oxidized. Let me explain to you this way. I think I talked about it when we were talking about cancer and oxidation, rusting, you're looking at apple, it's getting brown, or a nail that's rusting away. This is oxidative processes. Now, one of the studies actually looked at oil and they tested after it was extracted from the food, how long did it take for that oil to start degrading? Now, that's not based on how long it's been in the store. That's based on when it was first extracted. Now, most of the oils you see at the store, they've probably been there for, could have been years. You follow me? And I just wanted to share that. Now, almond oil, within 3 months, it was going, it was experiencing this oxidative process. Avocado, 7 months, hazelnut, 7.5. Actually, macadamia was the one that lasted the longest, 15.4 months. Grapeseed oil, 3.2. Rice bran, 6.5. Sesame, 6, and walnut oil, a half a month. So when the oils are extracted from their natural original food source, what happens is, because it's taken away from all of the other components that actually protect it, it degrades it much quicker. So that was one study that looked at that. When we deep fried foods, it actually creates these toxic compounds that are actually in the air. It's like air pollution. And probably the worst in that form would be is actually coconut oil. And the best, the safest was canola. So in terms of damaging effects, canola appeared better than all the others. So all in all, the less oil, the better off we are. The lower the temperature, the better, the shorter the time period. The longer, oil that's used over and over again, that's toxic. So we want to stay away from those as much as possible and eat more of our foods with minimal amount, something enough just to keep it from sticking, a little spray or something like that. So that's my thoughts on oil. So keep it minimal. And if you're using it, make sure you have a lot more of the foods that are high in antioxidants that can actually protect against any potential harm as a result of that. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Gibbons. Okay, our next question actually was about Ceylon cinnamon.
Yes. Remember we had talked about that before? Ceylon. It's the form of cinnamon that had the least amount of this potentially toxic compound. It only has trace amounts of, and the other form, what is it? Cassia is the form typically in most of the cinnamons you buy at the market, but you can actually get the Ceylon type, which is the healthier. Actually, it tastes better also. So that's the one you want to go for if you're using any cinnamon.
Okay, next question. Is that Amla powder from Indian elderberry in pill form?
It's Indian gooseberry.
Okay.
I've seen it mostly in a powder form, but I think it's It's available also in pill form or capsule. And I'm gonna see what I can do to bring some in myself. So look out, and I'll let you know if you can't find it here. Okay.
Okay. Oh, someone asked if regular cinnamon from the grocery store, if it's any good, as in drinking with water, hot or cold.
Well, just from what I shared before, the Ceylon is the best of the Ceylon is the best of the cinnamon options. As far as that compound that can be toxic in higher amounts.
Okay, and that's it for our questions.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Razia, for making sure that we get those questions that people are leaving in the chat so that the good doctor can give us those answers that he's been so willingly and freely given. Well, today we're talking about free. We want to live diabetes free. So the good doctor has a presentation for us at this time. I would just say, if you know someone who needs this presentation, get on the phone and give them the information so that they can at least catch this one. Because diabetes, Dr. Gibbons, is a situation problem in Bermuda.
It definitely is. All right, let's join us today. We're going to talk about some good news. Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. I want to talk about how to live diabetes free. Now, this is a major issue in Bermuda, this whole question of diabetes. And now we do know, based on what we've been sharing, that what we tend to label as disease is really not the problem, it's actually the symptom. And the real issue is lifestyle in most cases. And so when I talk about diabetes free, I'm going to be talking principally about type 2 diabetes, not type 1. We'll talk a little bit about that, and even type 1 diabetes, and we'll get to that, has some lifestyle pieces. So let's dive in. Let's talk about this whole question of diabetes. All right, so what is diabetes? And that's the question. Simply put, having blood sugar so high for so long that it eventually results in health problems, complications, okay? So the sugar in the bloodstream is higher than it should be. What's the problem with this? Sugar attaches to protein molecules, and this high amount of sugar actually creates a problem called glycosylation. And this changes how the cell functions. All right, it's got the wrong combination of building materials, and this can affect us in multiple ways. Okay, and we'll take a look at that. Now, how do we test whether your sugars are where they should be or not? Of course, we have these, random testing, people prick their fingers. Now we even have a device attached to the arm, which they can record, they can monitor their blood sugar without constantly sticking their fingers. So that's another method that's out there. To the right, at the top, you see the glucose tolerance test. And that is a test where we actually challenge the pancreas. So you drink this 50-gram solution of glucose, or the Pepsi jelly bean challenge. Now, some is 75 grams in this example. So 28 jelly beans is equivalent to the 50 grams of glucose drink. So what it does is you take it, and then your blood sugar goes up. Everybody's blood sugar goes up. But depending on how well your pancreas is working, it will not go as high if you are in good control. If you are in poor control, your blood sugar levels will be even like higher. All right, so this is a challenge to see how well your body responds to this onslaught of glucose all at one time. The fourth, at the bottom there, you see hemoglobin A1c. So you got this protein molecule, and then you've got sugar attached to it. And this is looking at over the past 2 to 3 months, how well your sugars have been. So that's a test, hemoglobin A1c, and of course the other tests we talked about. And of course, the fasting, 12 hours overnight, haven't consumed anything, 10 hours, it's actually a fasting period where you haven't consumed anything for a number of hours overnight. And that gives you an idea of what your sugars are. So normal is considered 79 to 99. Pre-diabetes, 100 to 125. And this is after a fasting period. Diabetes, equal to or greater than 126. This is milligrams per deciliter. That's how it's measured in the blood, 12-hour fast before the test. And so these are the numbers, okay? Ideal between 70 and 99, as you see there. All right, now, oral glucose tolerance test. This is the one, and you can see to the right here, the 75-gram test. And you can see diabetes equal to 200, normal less than 140. So it's 2 hours later and once more during the testing. So that's when it is tested. And these are the numbers that indicate whether you have diabetes or whether you are in a normal range. This is with hemoglobin A1c. So hemoglobin with glucose attached to it. You see the graphic to the right. You see the first one with the low hemoglobin A1c. You see the other with the high. See, the high has a lot more sugar attached to the red blood cells. All right. So what's normal? 4.5 to 5.6. All right, that's considered a normal hemoglobin A1c. Optimal, under 5. And actually, the blood sugar is approximately 97 for a reading that's under 5. That's the average. Pre-diabetic range, you can see that, 5.7 to 6.4. Diabetes, 6.5. That's approximately 140 milligrams per deciliter. That's an average blood sugar based on a hemoglobin A1c of 6.5. All right, so these are ranges. Now, different labs have different cutoff points. So I'm giving you a cutoff point of 6.5 here from this particular. And this is where the excess sugar, AGEs is what we're called, is actually accelerated aging. So the more sugar you have attached to the red blood cell, it actually accelerates the aging process. It's associated with AGEs, associated with wrinkles, a lot of issues related to early aging. So too much sugar actually is not this wonderful thing, but it can accelerate the aging process. So here are some examples of hemoglobin levels, hemoglobin A1c, and what's the average blood sugar based on that. And you can see here, if you have a hemoglobin A1c of 12, your blood sugar average is 298. So that's pretty high. And you see way down to a 6 is 126 on average. So you really want your hemoglobin A1c under 5, and that's where you really want it. 5 is 97. So that's where you want it to be, hemoglobin A1c. And you can get that tested every 3 months to see how your numbers are moving. And that gives us a sort of a picture for the last 2 to 3 months, how your sugars have been averaging. So you want to get to the 5 or less. Now, this is some good news. You see the complications associated with diabetes on the left, and you see the reduced risk for every 1 percentage point drop in hemoglobin A1c. The risk of nerve damage, you can see that, and vision damage and kidney damage are decreased 37%. Just by 1 percentage point. So if it's 2 percentage points, that doubles. So anything, and amputation, you can see that, or death from peripheral vascular disease by 43%, heart attacks 14%, and diabetes-related deaths by 21%. So anything we can do to lower these numbers will affect these complications associated with these high levels of blood sugar. So what are risk factors? You can see here. You're 45 years or older. You're overweight or obese. You don't exercise regularly. You have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, family history. You're Black, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, or Pacific Islander. So all of these are factors related to, and most of them have lifestyle-related components. You know, the reason why 45 and older is because it's catching up with you. As you get older, you're following practices that are compromising the body's ability to handle the sugar. And as a result, your body's ability decreases as you get older. And so these risks are increasing. The weight is increasing, you know, the risks are increasing, right? Even when we look at the different races, one of the factors we see in a number of them is their diet and their lifestyle factors. I mean, I think we talked about some of that already. And so we're not going to go back into that. But all of these factors, to a large degree, our choices have an impact on whether or not we experience these diabetes, these sugar abnormalities. Now, these are some warning signs: excessive thirst, excessive urination, excessive appetite. Now, why would that be? Well, when your blood sugars rise and they rise dangerously high, then the body tries to get rid of the sugar. And so you tries to pee it out. And so you are going to the bathroom. So if you're going to the bathroom and the body's trying to get rid of the excess sugar, you're going to be thirsty. So you're going to keep drinking. And you keep drinking, you're going to keep urinating. Now, why this excessive appetite? Well, if the body is not taking in the sugar from the food, in other words, the sugar is rising, but the cells are not getting that sugar. So you're actually going to be hungry because you're not getting the calories. And we're going to talk about how insulin works with this. And this is probably, these factors tend to be more with people who have type 1 diabetes, where the body is not producing insulin at all. And you need insulin to get the sugar from the bloodstream to the cell, to nourish the cell, and then to benefit from the calories. And so if it's not getting in there, you don't have the insulin production, you're not going to get benefit from those calories. So you're going to end up, being hungry because you're not getting those calories. And of course, the excessive urination and the thirst and all of that is a part of that. And usually younger people, we recognize and we find out that they have a problem. The pancreas is the beta cells, which produce the insulin, have been destroyed. Some, autoimmune, the body attacking itself for some reason or the other. And as a result of that, you don't have the insulin. So you have to have insulin externally. because your body is not producing any, the beta cells are destroyed. So you need insulin. But individuals who have type 1 diabetes can actually still need far less insulin than they would need if they were not properly taking care of the lifestyle things. So the diet, the exercise, and all of that, people who are insulin dependent, who are not producing any insulin, can use far less insulin and have far better health than individuals who do not make the lifestyle adjustments. So a half of people don't know they have it. And of course, eye problems, kidney damage, heart disease, and strokes. These are all complications related to this glycosylated hemoglobin, where the glucose is attached to the red blood cells, these hemoglobin. Too much sugar creates massive problems that affects our eyes, our kidneys, our heart, and these are 2 to 4 times risk of heart attack. And here you go: dementia, sexual impotence, ulcerative sores, infections, amputations, breast cancers, uterine cancer, and a whole number of other cancers. And we've been talking about, when we talked about cancer in the past, how elevated blood sugar is one of the drivers of cancer. Cancer cells use 10 to 50 times more glucose than normal cells. So this question of elevated, abnormally high blood sugars that maintain for a long time has a lot of implications. Dementia, Alzheimer's, and we're going to look at Alzheimer's in the presentation all by itself, and memory. You don't want to miss that. But these are a number of serious complications as a result of excess blood sugar. So type 2, this is 90% of all diabetics. All right. And of course, overweight and obesity. We talked about obesity. This is definitely a factor. More than half of all obese individuals will develop diabetes. All right. And what's really at stake here is something we don't hear a lot about, is the fact that this excess fat in the muscle tissues of our legs, our arms, and our organs actually makes it difficult for insulin to really work. And this excess fat is a bigger problem than excess sugar. In fact, there are some studies that they've been done. They've taken perfectly healthy people, put them on a high sugar diet, and then test their blood sugar levels over, the next 2 to 3 hours to see how the sugars were going. And then they put them on a high fat diet, and then they test their blood sugars and see how the insulin levels, the blood sugar levels are. And the people on the high fat diet have higher blood sugar levels than people on the high sugar diet. We hear so much about sugar, but a real issue that we don't hear a lot about is this excess fat. And when you've got excess fat in your tissues, insulin doesn't work well. And if insulin doesn't work, and we're going to get to that, then your sugars are going to keep going up, keep getting higher. We talked about BMI. We gave you a chart when we talked about, obesity. And this is another one, maybe a little easier to read. So you have 2 graphs that you can take advantage of, and just take a look at where you are in terms of obese, overweight, or normal or underweight. Now, type 1 is not shortage, not insulin shortage, insulin blockage. That's type 2. Now, type 1 is 5 to 10% of all diabetics, and this is insulin dependent. They require insulin because the body is no longer producing it. Type 2, they have insulin, but it's a blockage. Now, And so we're going to talk about what blocks it. And we already start talking about something that blocks the action of it. So, so let's talk about how it works. So you got glucose. This is the fuel of the body. And you eat the food and the body breaks it down. And the end product of a lot of the food that we eat is blood glucose or fuel or sugar. Now, what happens is insulin is the key that opens the door to the cell so that the sugar can go from the bloodstream into the cell. If you have a high-fat diet, if you have a lot of fat stored in your muscle cells, in your organ systems, it gums up the lock. So the insulin doesn't work. The cell says, nope, I don't need any sugar. So we're not going to allow the sugar to get into the cell. So what happens? The blood sugar keeps rising, spills over into the urine, and all the complications come as a result of the high levels of blood sugar. So the real issue in type 2 diabetes is insulin blockage. And one of the major things that blocks insulin is too much fat. Now, sugar can have its place. But the biggest factor, if I were to say one, sugar versus fat, fat is a biggie. All right, so what causes non-insulin dependent diabetes? And so we're going to take a look at a group of individuals. And before we get there, of course, it's insulin resistant causes type 2 diabetes. Now, insulin resistance is going to be on one of your quizzes. So what do I mean when I say insulin resistance? Well, the body is resistant to the effects of insulin. Insulin's knocking on the door and the cell's not answering. The cell's not letting it open up the door. So the body is resistant to the insulin. That's what it means. So insulin resistance is the bottom line of type 2 diabetes. The insulin is there, it's talking, it's shouting, but the cell's not listening, okay? And so that's insulin resistance is associated with the cause of diabetes type 2. So let's talk about the Pima Indians. Now, these are a group of Indians that we warned that they have some of the highest rates of diabetes in the world. Now, what can we learn from the Indians? Well, diabetes is 6.4% globally, 9.4% the US, 12 to 13% in Bermuda, and 38% among the Pima Indians of central Arizona. Okay, this is where they live. Now, let's take a look at a graph. And this is a study was conducted. They compared the Pima Indians in the US with their genetic cousins living in Mexico, and then non-Pima Mexicans. Okay, they put 3 groups together. Now, as you can see men and women. Okay, let's go to the non-Pima Indians and see, you can see 5% of them had diabetes. In the Mexican Pima Indians, the men, 5.6%, and women, 8.5%. Now, let's go back to the non-Pima Mexicans. The men, none of them had diabetes. None of the Pima Indian, non-Pima Indian men had diabetes. Now, there's a possible reason for that, and we're going to get back to that as we go along with our presentation. US, what a difference. 34.2% of men and 40.8% of women. Now, if genetics was the main factor in driving it, then we should see pretty close the same level of diabetes in Mexico as we see in the US. The fact that we see this great difference indicates that we're looking at something more than just genetics. So let's find out what is the potential difference. So let's look at the weight. Pima Indians in Mexico, you see that. You see the males average 145 and women 138.6. Arizona, 215 and men and 200 in female. So you see this big difference in overall body weight. What about obesity? 6.5%, yes, 63, 19, 74.8. And one of those factors that we talked about already, this excess body fat affecting insulin so it doesn't work. So the insulin resistance created by excess body fat. All right. So fat intake, less than 25% of the calories. These are the Pima Indians in Mexico, versus greater than 40% of the calories from fat. So if we look at overall all the calories that were consumed in the Pima Indians in Arizona, almost half of their calories came from fat. And less than a quarter in the Mexican. So we see low fat, high weight, right? Low weight, low incidence of type 2 diabetes. What about physical activity? Well, 22 hours per week. These are the Pima Indians in Mexico versus 3 hours per week in Arizona. And I left the fat in again, but let's talk a little bit about the Pima Indians in Mexico. Now, they live in areas where there's, they have to trek to get their own water. They had to garden. So basically, they're living off the land. So in the morning, they're washing their clothes. They have to go to the river, get the water, bring the water back, and then they have to wash it by hand. So everything is done by hand. They rise with the sun and they go down with the with the sun. The sun goes down, they go down. This and the living off the land. Let's take a look at that. The Pima Indians in Mexico, greater than 50 grams of fiber. In Arizona, less than 20 grams of fiber. So low fiber intake in Arizona versus high fiber intake in Mexico, rural Mexico. Now, dietary fiber for the non-Pima Mexican man. None of them had type 2 diabetes. They had an highest fiber intake of all, 56 grams of fiber a day. So those that had the highest fiber had no diabetes. So as fiber goes down, diabetes goes up. As fat goes up, what happens? Diabetes goes up. So as fat goes down, diabetes goes down. As exercise increases, diabetes goes down. So we see these possible relationships from comparing just the Pima Indians from Mexico and the Arizona Pima Indians. Now, let's look at the diet. The Pima Indians in Mexico, this is what their principal diet was. Beans, potatoes, corn, garlic, green pepper, peaches, apples. 70 to 80% of the calories came from carbohydrates. Now, if you look at your average, if you've been around and you hear people are telling, saying, starch, it's going to cause your blood sugars. That's the real problem. You need to get rid of all the starches. But here is a group: beans, potatoes, corn, garlic, peaches, apple, fat, 8 to 12%. This is how much fat they're getting in. Protein, 12 to 18% protein. So you see this dietary predominance of these plant-based foods. The animal-based products are very, very small. The bulk is from these plant-based foods. Now, what about Arizona? Well, the Indians in Arizona are subsidized by the US foods. And what actually happened is the US actually took away their land and then diverted their water supply. So here you have individuals, these Pima Indians, they were in their rightful place, and then the Americans came, took away their land, diverted their water, and then what did they do? The Americans subsidizes them with food high in white sugar, flour, and lard, and canned goods. So their fat intake went up to over 40%. And what was the principal reason for that? The US government subsidizing this horrible food to these Indians who couldn't survive because what the Americans did to them, took away from them, and then gave them these poor foods. And so here we have a people today that are among the highest rates of diabetes, and here we are, we've got people studying them. Why is it that they're this way? And the true story is because of the United States of America that they are in this place. Now, something is really clear that in this we want to understand. This is an important point that I want you to understand. Now, in Mexico, these individuals, or before the Americans came in, they were slim and trim, okay? And what tends to happen when we are in a culture where we're very active and the food supply may not be as high or as bountiful, what the body does is it develops this genetic ability to take as much calories from whatever foods you have. So if you have a limited supply, then the body adjusts so that it can absorb more from what you have. So that if you have a little, the body will absorb more from that food. So when you move from a culture where you don't have tons of food now to a culture where you're given plenty of high calorie foods, those genes that are primed to absorb higher amounts of calories from food are still alive and well. And because of this, these Pima Indians, actually, the level of obesity just went through the roof. And we know this in cultures where through war, where they are deprived food, like during Nazi Germany and all of that, their genetic cousins are obese. And their genetic cousins are obese because when they were kept in this semi-starvation mode, the body adapted to absorb more calories from limited supply of food, so that when unlimited supply, this process was still in the genes were primed. Thrifty genes is what they call, and these thrifty genes absorbing all of those calories. So there are people who have more challenges losing weight than others because of those genes that have this propensity to absorb more from what they take, and others who may be more of a balanced history where they are, they don't tend to gain this weight as efficiently. They're more efficient at burning calories, while the others are more efficient at storing calories. So our genetics has a place, but if you take Pima Indians who are living and eating those foods and we put them back on their traditional diets, and guess what happens? The weight goes back down. So they can revert back to, this healthy balance if the lifestyle is adjusted. Now, the 3 hours compared with the 22 hours, now the Pima Indians, they're at least the ones that are in agriculture, they have these machines that are doing all the work for them. When in Mexico, they're doing all the work. They're chopping, they're planting, they're harvesting, they're carting the water. They are active throughout the day. And the higher the fiber overall, we see this amazing benefit. So we're looking at some important factors that are a part of this whole living diabetes-free. High fiber, high activity, low weight, right? Low intake of fat, high intake of whole plant foods, high in fiber. So these are factors that have been linked, at least looking at this particular group, comparing their cousins, giving us some keys as to how to live diabetes-free. Now, let's take another study. Let's look at fiber, dietary fiber, and risks of diabetes. This is looking at what we call a prospective study. They look at people and follow them up. And on the bottom line, you see grams of fiber per day, 10 grams. And then you look up and you see the line going through. See the best fit and confidence intervals that it range from one to the other, okay? And in the middle is sort of like the average, the mean, the darker bar. And you can see the risk of relative risk of diabetes. So let's look at a 1. A 1 is neither here nor there. And above 1, the risks are increasing. You see 1.5. So the 0.5 would mean 50% increase risk of what? Diabetes. And on the bottom, you see 0.5, and that would be a 50% decrease risk of diabetes. So one is a 50% increase and the other a decrease. And as you can see, as we're getting to over 60 grams of fiber, you see a significant decrease in the risk of diabetes, which sort of mirrors what we saw in the study of the Pima Indians and the non-Pima Mexicans who had the highest level of fiber, 65 grams, 65 or 50, not sure, not recording. But here we have 60 grams or greater associated with the lowest risk of type 2 diabetes. Now, here's another study, actually a meta-analysis. A meta-analysis, we take a combination, we take multiple studies together, put them all together, and what happens is in the multitude the Bible says, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. In the multitude of studies, there is also safety. And so a meta-analysis, systematic review is a very great way of taking out issues in some studies that may be unbalanced. So when you put them all together, you end up with a better overall picture. And as you can see, 60 grams of fiber again, you can see here levels of what? A breast cancer. You can see the breast cancer ended at about 40%, 40 grams of fiber. And that's looking at relative risk. And that was probably the highest level of fiber in that group. But when we look at diabetes and heart disease, you can see there, that's actually down to a 60% decreased risk of diabetes and heart disease, thereabout. As a result, is that 0.5, no, not 60. You see, right. It's close to 50%. That's overall. That's what you're looking at. Decrease as a result of fiber intake. So the take-home message here is 60 grams of fiber seems to be a good amount to ensure low risk for decreased risk for these major health issues. And we've been focusing more principally on diabetes today. So fiber goes up, diabetes goes down, breast cancer goes down, heart disease goes down. So fiber is good. So where do we get it? And here are top high fiber foods. You see passion fruit. We don't have much of that in Bermuda, about 25 grams of fiber in, and these are per cup, unless it's indicated elsewhere. Navy beans, 19 grams, right? White beans, you can see all of that. Black beans and oat bran, etc. Buckwheat grouts are gluten-free seeds of a flower, right? So flowering plant, that's what buckwheat is. You may have seen buckwheat pancake mix. So buckwheat, you can get buckwheat, from various stores like the ABC on King Street and others. And so very high in fiber, 17 grams of fiber. So our goal is to get that fiber intake up. 60 grams would be great. Now, if you haven't been consuming a ton of fiber, you don't want to rush in and eat a real high amount. That could be disastrous for you. So start out maybe a half a cup and then build up, all right? Or half a cup twice a day, something like that. If it seems a little bit too much for you, then go down to half a cup, quarter cup twice a day, something like that there. Gas, bloating, or for some people, you're not used to fiber. Now, fiber is good fuel for the bacteria that live in your colon, and we talked about that. And they make these, these compounds that control your appetite, that also control your blood sugar. So beans are amazing. I mean, they are a powerhouse for fiber and for blood sugar control. They dampen the rise in blood sugar. So instead of your blood sugar shooting up, it makes more of an even rise and fall. And that's what you want to have rather than these high peaks and then low valleys that are created by the highly processed food with no fiber, lots of sugar and fat and all of those types of things. All right, so here you go. You got some ideas of some things that are very high in fiber. And so the idea is to add a few of those to some other things, eating more whole plant foods as a baseline, and then tweaking it with foods that are exceptionally high in fiber. Now, the best beans in a clinical study that compared certain beans, chickpeas, pinto beans, and black beans were on top in terms of their ability to control blood sugar. So if you're diabetic and you have issues with, do something like that. Now, let me give you an example of what happened. Patient came to me. They were on 40 units of insulin. Yeah, they were seeing the diabetic specialist, endocrinologist. They were extremely overweight. They weren't feeling great about, how they were, just not in good control. And so what we did as an initial, I said, okay, it was during the cooler season. I said, let's try something. Let's do a soup. Okay, I want you to have a vegetable and bean soup. That's what I want you to have for the next week. Okay, you can have a salad and you have this vegetable and bean soup. So you got the squash and the pumpkin, etc., and you have the beans. You season it however you want, And this is what she had. And her blood sugars dropped significantly. So she cut her insulin in half. She lost about 10 pounds. This is in a short period of time. She was feeling better and sleeping better. Isn't that amazing? And all she did was made that radical change. So she didn't eat all that high-fat processed foods that she was eating before. Let's do this just to see if we can bring you into some control. And we saw some significant improvements within 7 days. So the power of eating right and moving, it's just remarkable. So the benefits are there, and anybody who's challenged can experience them for themselves. Okay, there are some more. Pine nuts, you see acorn squash and guava and flaxseed and blackberries and raspberries and bulgur. And bulgur is made from cracked parboiled groats of several different wheat species. So bulgur, you take the wheat kernel and it's all chipped up, right? And it's a dried. Now, if you were to compare this to flour and its impact on your blood sugar, the flour product, like the bread, will cause a higher spike or rise in blood sugar than bulgur would, because bulgur is the whole that's in cracked. So it's not as finely ground. And when it's finely ground, you're opening up and you're making it easier for the sugar to be accessed and to cause the blood sugars to rise. So whole intact grains are better than finely ground grains. Okay, so bulgur wheat or cracked wheat cereal would be superior for blood sugar control than cream of wheat. And cream of wheat is the white, right? The fiber is taken out. Yeah, it's all nice and creamy. And so your blood sugars will just shoot up. But you eat the cracked wheat or the bulgur wheat, and you see a totally different response. Now, avocado is high in fiber. It's also, a higher amount of fat. So if fat is an issue, I wouldn't eat a whole avocado. Okay, if weight is an issue, maybe a quarter of an avocado. But acorn squash, yeah, guava, go for it. Blackberries, raspberries. You were here when we were talking about weight and how much of strawberries is equivalent to the amount you'd have to eat. So these are things that you can capitalize on. If your blood sugars are out of order, they can bring it back in order. Getting that fiber up is an important factor in making that happen. Now, Chef Louise Allen Frank, she is actually a Pima Indian. And this is what she wrote. Wild harvested roots, vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts, and beans, and herbs were also enjoyed. Speaking about the Pima Indians back at home in Mexico, this is how they lived. These provided a healthy diet, low in fat and high in nutrients. To heal diabetes and other health-related ailments, Native Americans are now rejecting large amounts of highly processed and animal-based foods. So they're going back to their roots, going back to their living simply of the things in nature, things that you can grow. And this is where we need to go back to Eden. You know, this is where it all started, when God created us and made us special. And he said it was very good. We lived in a garden. We lived of the foods that grew in a garden. We drank the water that flowed through the garden, the fresh air and the sunlight, and that communion with God all together to create a quality of life and how that is superior to any other approach to healthy living. Now, let's look at a study, a modern day comparison study. They compared a vegan diet with the American Diabetes Association diet for 22 weeks. The researchers wanted to confirm what they perceived from the studies looking at like the Mexican, the Pima Indians, okay, well, let's give people, not only the Pima Indians, other cultures around the world who in their native land have very low or non-existing health problems that we see today. In Bermuda, we've talked about some of them already. But this is looking in terms of diabetes. So this is what they put them on: beans, lentils, peas, green leafy vegetables, and almost all fruit except watermelon and pineapple. Now, there's some studies that they suggested that maybe the watermelon may cause a higher rise in blood sugar. Now, if you really have a serious blood sugar problems and it's very sensitive, the numbers are shooting up very high, then maybe you can, just see how your body responds, to something like watermelon, pineapple. The best way to know is to put it to practice and see how it goes. So you eat a meal, right, that contains it, right? Let's say it had watermelon and it had beans, et cetera, et cetera. 2 hours later, or let's say before your next meal, you tested your blood sugar. And let's say your blood sugar was averaging before that, came 120. And then you added watermelon and it went to 160. Then you say, well, you know what? Better not add that. You follow what I'm saying? So you do your own experiment of one. And you apply the principles and you see how your body responds, and you adjust what you eat until the numbers come to where they should be. All right, so this is what they had. Now let's go on. They also added barley and bulgur wheat, okay? And we talked about, the bulgur, bulgur wheat, rye, pumpernickel bread, yams, sweet potatoes, bran cereal, and oatmeal. But no calorie restriction. That sounds a lot like what we talked about on weight loss, right? It's what you eat, right? And so this is the diet that they were on. Now, let's look at the other one. Now, the ADA diet cut back on sugars and starchy foods. So your breads and potatoes and rice, they cut back, can't have as much as those. Lower cholesterol intake, 200 milligrams. So you're still eating animal products, right? But just not as much. And then if they were overweight, the ones that are overweight, they reduced their calorie intake with overweight. Now, I have a question for you. What do you think? You're overweight, reducing your calorie. In the other group, no restrictions of calorie intake, just restrictions in what foods they eat. Now, who gained more weight? Who lost more weight? Those on the ADA diet, those on the vegan diet. Let's see. Here you go. Check this out. 22 weeks, 14.3 pounds versus 6.8. Hemoglobin A1c went down what? 1.38% versus 0.38%. Almost 3 times the difference. LDL cholesterol, 21.2 versus 10.7. Diabetes medication, 43% reduction in their intake of medication versus 21%. Isn't that amazing? Just by adjusting the diet, their need for medication significantly. So we're seeing twice the improvement. And guess what? Who was more compliant? Those who were on the vegan diet were actually more compliant with the eating program. They could eat as much as they wanted, right? And the type of foods they were eating affected their emotional well-being, affected their blood sugar, the weight, everything about them improved as a result of that. Those who were on their restricted calorie intake actually were less compliant. And that's what we talked about before. If you're restricted, where you're feeling hungry all the time, you're not going to be sustainable. So we want to be able to eat so we can be satisfied. And it's this high fiber food that leads to this satisfaction. It actually dampens your appetite for the highly processed foods. At the same time, it helps you to lose weight, okay? Because your overall calorie intake is actually less. Amazing. What about living and lifestyle centers? Pima Institute. This is one of the lifestyle centers comparable to where I went to school some years ago. I went to Pima Living and Lifestyle Center. And Pima is actually the place where NEWSTART got its beginnings. They have the NEWSTART lifestyle program. So it was coined, the acronym NEWSTART at Pima. Someone indicated that it may have been one of the guests at one point. I'm not directly sure whether that was the case, but whether it was a guest or someone else, they looked at all the components and they came up, they say, look, NEWSTART actually summarizes all of them. So this is what they discovered. 50% of type 2 diabetics were off all medication and insulin. And their blood sugar levels were normalized in 21 days. Amazing. 21 days. Now, of course, they did more than just exercise. They incorporated all the NEWSTART principles. So half were free. They were no longer diabetic. Isn't that amazing? In 21 days. Half. Now, 80% of patients with neuropathy, nerve pain, were pain-free in 17 days. Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine people who are experiencing nerve pain for years, taking medication and all of that, then came to the Living Center, and in 17 days, gone. No more pain. Half of them off all their medication. I tell you, this is great news. Now, Lifestyle Centers of America. This is another center. And 14 of type 2 diabetics in a group of 17 were off insulin at the end of 19 days. So 19 days, no more insulin, type 2 diabetics. Isn't that amazing? And think about it. People are on insulin for years. I see a lot of people who come who are diabetic. And what disturbs me the most is I'm taking medication. I'm not testing my blood sugar. All I'm doing is taking medication. Now, what's right with that, or what's wrong with that? Well, how do you know whether the medication you're taking is helping if you're not monitoring your blood sugar? And the same I've seen with people with high cholesterol. I've been taking medication for years, not testing, or blood pressure and not testing. And when I check the blood pressure is high. They've been taking medication for years, but the blood pressure is no better because of it. And why is that? Well, I mean, we talked about it before. The real issue is not the blood pressure. The real issue is the lifestyle. The lifestyle that's causing the blood vessels to be stiffer and the blood to be thicker, too much fluid retention, too much sodium, too much body weight, too much stress, not enough sleep. All of these factors, not exposed to the sunlight and deep breathing of fresh air, all of these things, right? All they're doing is taking medication while maintaining the same lifestyle that created the problem in the first place. Fatally deceived into thinking, if I just take this pill, I'll be okay. That is false. It is not true. You have to deal with the underlying factor if you want real change, lifelong change. And here we can see 17 days, 19 days, 21 days, transformation for people that have had issues for years. The power of NEWSTART. Another program, 21-day health recovery program, Gabriel Cousins. He also had a plant-based program, 100% got off all medications, non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, that's NI, DDM type 2 diabetes. Blood sugar became normal, 61%. Type 2 insulin dependent diabetes, 84% got off all medication. Now, blood sugars became normal in 24%. Now, insulin-dependent type 2 diabetes comes about as a result of, you've been following these habits that are not healthy for so long that the pancreas gets exhausted and say, okay, I can't keep up with this. I cannot keep producing more insulin. So the insulin levels go really low, right? And so when we have a real strict, with our diet and lifestyle, we can actually, a monk can actually get off medication, but you have to be really strict because you have a minimum production of insulin still there. And so those individuals can actually get off it. Though not all, but significant improvements in blood sugar normalization by making the comprehensive changes. So here we can see the benefits of lifestyle transformation. And on top of that, you can see how the blood sugar levels, you see baseline 247, 21 days, dropped 86 points, weight loss 18 pounds. So the power of lifestyle change cannot be underestimated. It is the key factor. This NEWSTART approach can dramatically improve conditions that people have been experiencing for years, 3 weeks, 1 month, totally transformed. Now, this brings to mind, after this program, we're going to be doing a couple more programs, and that just ran into my mind, so keep your ears open. One is actually a lifestyle change program. It's going to be at the Southampton Seventh-day Adventist Church in September. We're going to be September the 4th, I think about that there. It's going to be 8 Sabbaths, and we'll talk more about it before then, and there will be a screening period, pre-screening, and then at the end, there'll be a post-screening. And so that will be an opportunity for you if you really want to, go through it. And we're going to have goals to work on each week. and challenging people, and maybe a Sunday where we can get together. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, there's going to be a follow-up, and people will be able to see how they have been transformed as a result of implementing the lifestyle change. So we're having a couple of things coming up, but just thought I would share that because just came to my mind as we were talking about these group style intervention programs that tend to have a very dramatic effect on people's lifestyle. 16-day program. Here is an example of another program. 22 diabetics on an average of 20 units of insulin for up to 20 years were put on a high fiber, low fat, plant-based diet for how many days? 16 days in a metabolic ward. So basically, these individuals were confined to a center. They were given them their food, so they had exactly what it was prescribed and nothing more. So they were kept in this confinement. So sort of like a Libyan lifestyle program. So they were taking 20 units of insulin for up to 20 years. So think about it. Every day, 20 years, injecting yourself with insulin. What happened after 16 days? This is nothing less than remarkable. Insulin requirements dropped by about 60% on the diet, and 10 of the participants got off all insulin in only 16 days. In addition, the average cholesterol went from 206 to 147 milligrams per deciliter. Isn't that amazing? High fiber. We talked about this already. This is a key factor. High fiber, low fat. The opposite is the reason why people have these issues, right? High fat, low fiber, your blood sugar is going to be out of whack. High fiber, low fat, you're going to be in a really good, positive stead. So let's take a look at the graph. You can see here. This is the units of insulin per day, right? And you can see the average change in body weight and insulin injection amounts in 8 men put on the high fiber diet. So you can see as the days went by, you can see the insulin going up. The overall weight wasn't that much change, right? But you can see this precipitous drop in insulin levels as a result of high fiber diet. And we're looking at a good girl over 60 grams of fiber a day. Key factor, do that, amazing benefits. People have come to me and I say, okay, I tell you what, just try this one thing, just one thing. Add a half a cup of beans with your meals. Breakfast, half a cup, lunch, half a cup, dinner, half a cup. Come back in a week. These are individuals, their sugars are all over the place. They're just not in good control. And what happens? All of them, they come back much better control. Fiber makes a difference. And it's the fiber from the whole food, not fiber supplements. The best thing is the fiber from the whole food, right? That helps to control appetite in multiple ways, right? The fiber feeds the good bacteria, which boosts your immune system, which boosts the production of these chemicals that suppress your appetite and your desire for junk foods, right? Give you a nice, even, calm rise and fall in blood sugar. And your blood sugars are not all over the place. Your moods are not going to be all over the place. It's going to help your moods. It's going to help your blood sugar. It's going to help your weight loss because fiber expands. It doesn't add calories. You feel satisfied. You get full quicker. You don't get as much calories. So you lose weight. You feel great, right? So this is amazing. These are some of the amazing benefits. So a diet low in saturated fat and high in fiber. So saturated fat is the biggest problem. Most of our saturated fat comes from animal-based products. Plant-based products would be coconut and palm. So diet low in saturated fat, high in fiber, rich in whole plant foods, improves cell membrane function. And thus increasing insulin sensitivity, which normalizes blood sugar levels. So you want to increase insulin sensitivity, right? So it's insulin sensitivity. That is what you want to have. The cells are sensitive to insulin. So the cell membrane function. So a cell is surrounded by a membrane, just imagine like your skin surrounds your organs and everything that's on the inside of you. While there's a membrane, a lipid type membrane, a membrane that has fat in it that surrounds your cells. Now, this membrane actually is a communication barrier between what's in the cell and what's outside of the cell. So when you get sugar in the cell, it has to go through the membrane, right? You follow me? Waste products have to come out through the, so everything goes in and out through these membranes. If your diet is high in saturated fat, then you have poor building material. And what this building material does, it gums up this communication channel. So it affects insulin, it affects everything that needs to get in or get out of the cell. And so what we're doing when we have this wrong type of fat, high levels of these animal-based fats, it messes up the membranes. In fact, it also stiffens the blood vessels. So increases blood pressure, which we looked at, right? So what we want to do is we want to have membranes that are responsive to insulin. So the saturated fat goes away, the low fat comes in, whole plant foods, insulin sensitivity increases, blood sugar normalizes, the sugar goes out of the bloodstream into the cells. So you keep your blood sugars where they need to go. As you eat the food, the sugar trickles into the cells over a period of time, several hours. When you feel hungry again, your sugar levels are coming down. You follow me? That's how it's supposed to happen. And so 4 to 5 hours later, 5 or 6 hours later, you're ready to eat again. That high fiber helps to slow the release of sugar over a longer period of time, keep you satisfied for a while so you don't feel like snacking all during the day. And that's not what you want to do. That's not a good habit. And for whatever you've heard, there's frequent snacking, good snacks, bad snacks. No, non-snacking, okay? You eat the high fiber, eat enough at the meal, you'll be fine. You'll be satisfied. You'll have energy to spare, and you'll feel great. Now, a low diet, low in fiber, high in processed, saturated fat, and you have mostly your animal product, your processed, hardened vegetable fats, stick margarine, Crisco, and the like, reduce insulin sensitivity, increases blood sugar. So we've got this low fat, high fat combination, okay? So we want high fiber, low fat, diabetes under control. Here is an interesting study, another study that looked at 46% of diabetics were cured at 1 year in this particular, and the criteria was a hemoglobin less than 6.5 after at least 2 months of all diabetic medication. Those that lost 33 pounds or more, that's the intervention group. When we look at the intervention group, those that were in remission at 12 months, 68% of them, 68 individuals, 46%. So withdrawal of diabetic medications, and high blood pressure medication. They put them on a low-calorie diet for 3 to 5 months. They reintroduced food from week 2 to 8, and they supported long-term weight loss. So the ones that lost the most weight, right, in this particular study, more of them were off their diabetic medication. Now, this wasn't necessarily a high fiber diet. This was a low calorie diet. And we did talk about studies where in fact, the high fiber was more effective in getting people off of medication in a shorter period of time than this year long. But this brings in another factor, and that factor of weight loss. So fiber is great. Yes, low fat is excellent, right? Weight loss is also an important factor. And you can see in this next slide, 86% cured who lost greater than 33 pounds. So you can see weight loss, the amount of weight loss associated with diabetes. So you can see getting off medication, the less weight, the less likely. The more weight loss, the greater the potential. So we've got weight loss, we've got high fiber, we've got low fat. So these are all important factors. Now here's another study. This looked at a high nutrient dense diet. And this diet was high in fiber, high in plant-based foods, right? That have more water, less overall calories than when we were talking about weight loss. This type of combination, you can see hemoglobin A1c right across on the left. You see 5, 7, 9, and 11, right? Vertical to the left. You can see that percentage. And you can see how it dropped. Hemoglobin levels dropping. And everybody, you can see here, you can see it dropping and months on the diet. So you can see here, just by having a diet high in these nutrient-dense foods, you see significant drops. And a number of them within a couple of months, you're seeing these amazing drops. And as it goes along, you see it dropping even more. Now, this is Dr. Furman's high nutrient density foods, what he had. So one large salad included some raw onions and shredded cruciferous vegetables on top. At least a half a cup of beans or lentils. That could be in soups and stews, added to the salad in another dish. At least 3 fresh fruit, you can see that. Give some, especially your berries, your pomegranates, your cherries, your plums, your orange. They tend to have higher nutrient density, right? Vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals. We've talked about them in our past. At least 1 ounce of raw nuts and seeds, like a quarter cup thereabouts, and 1 double-sized servings of steamed greens. So these are some basic components in this diet. Only 1 serving a day of non-starchy beans. Non-starchy beans such as non-bean starches, like squash, deal-cut oats, brown wild rice, exclusion of white flour, sweets, oils, limiting animal products to no more than 12 ounces per week. 3 ounces is about the size of a deck of cards, so not very much. And this was the result of his particular program. So we see a variety of different approaches that have been utilized in regard to diabetes management. So it gives you some ideas. So let's talk about some other things. Exercise. Now, regular exercise can prevent 30 to 50% of all new cases of diabetes. So movement is a critical piece also. So we deal with the diet. What about movement? 30 to 50% could be prevented just by being active. When inactive muscle cells start working, they become more sensitive to insulin and increase the uptake of sugar from the bloodstream. So A working muscle demands fuel. So you work the muscle, and the muscle burns what? Burns the fat, burns the glycogen, the stored carbohydrate within the muscle, right? And so it's burnt out. So if it's burnt out, it needs more. So insulin works quite well because now the cells have been working. And so the insulin knocks on the door and the cell says, come in. We need to replenish our stores of glycogen or stored carbohydrate in the muscle cells. We've been burning it off all day. Let's fill it back up again. Okay, so this is good news. So for diabetic, a combination of aerobic and resistance training exercise is best. Variety, circuit training is better than just a few. And those of you who have had type of gym type routine, you know, for 5 minutes, you're on one equipment, let's say you're on a treadmill, and then 10 minutes, you switch to another trip, you're on the steps, or, you know, variety of different exercises. It doesn't even have to be in a gym situation. You can walk, you can jog, you can ride the bike, you can do push-ups, sit-ups, you know, a variety of different types of exercise. Now, interval training is more potent than continuous intensity exercise. And we're going to look at a couple of examples of that as we go along. And a digestive walk after meals for about 15 to 30 minutes at a low intensity. So these are some ideas that will be helpful for people who have diabetes. So let's take a look at it. Continuous brisk exercise involving large muscle groups promotes circulation of oxygen through the blood, increases breathing rate. Now, brisk walking, jogging, running, cycling, rowing, swimming. Now, these are all examples of aerobic exercise that are good. And we can work from lower intensity to high intensity and back and forth, up and down. And we'll talk about that. Now, we've got resistance exercise. It causes the muscles to contract against an external resistance. So push-ups are a clear example of that. You're pushing up against gravity, your body weight, you know, and it's affecting your arms or little weights, or you're hoeing in a garden, you know, anything that's causing this resistance. That's an important type. External resistance, you got dumbbells, you got weight machines, body weight itself, pull-ups, sit-ups, etc. Water bottles, cans, resistance bands that stretch. All of these are things that are helpful tools for resistance types of exercise. Now, there's a dose-response relationship between exercise and hemoglobin A1c levels, which we talked about before, meaning the more you exercise, the more your hemoglobin A1c levels will drop. More exercise, more benefit, less benefit. Okay, greater than 150 minutes per week, hemoglobin A1c decreased by 0.89%. Greater than 150 rather, 0.89, you see that? For aerobic exercise, less than 150 minutes with hemoglobin decreased by 0.36. Okay, so almost 3 times the increase by more activity. So the more active, the better the drops in hemoglobin A1c. Now, just take a look at this graph here. You can see the cases in like little bubbles, and the line that's going down at an angle indicates the trend. All right. So as the exercise increases on the bottom, the hemoglobin A1c decreases, right? Less exercise, more hemoglobin A1c, more exercise, you know, lower levels. okay? High intensity exercise did not improve hemoglobin A1c. So it doesn't have to be real high intensity, right? Just normal, moderate intensity. You got to kill yourself. Hemoglobin A1c levels will decrease. You don't have to have high intensity, but you have to move. So that's good news. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to be sprinting to get your hemoglobin A1c dropping for you. Now, older adults with type 2 diabetes lose muscle mass and strength more rapidly when compared to people of the same age without diabetes. And that's probably a good reason to do resistance, because the resistance strengthens the muscle. It also strengthens the bones. Lack of resistance, the muscles tend to atrophy. They get smaller and weaker. Resistance training and mortality. Strength training for 30 plus minutes per week decrease cardiovascular disease risk by 23%. So resistance training is an important factor. Now, let's talk about this digestive walk. A 10-minute walk after dinner drops glucose spikes after dinner by 22%. Amazing, just 10%. Just 10 minutes, rather. Each minute of post-meal exercise reduces post-meal glucose spikes by 2 milligrams per deciliter. Okay, so 2 points down for 1 minute, every minute. So nice, relaxing pace, enhancing digestion. Not vigorous, vigorous would stop digestion. So interval, 20 seconds of exercise followed by 10 seconds of rest. Now that's one option. Here is another in the graph you see there. Fast pace, slow pace. You see minutes, 0 to 2, then 5 minutes. So it's like, give you an example. Let's say you were walking along a common road where there are poles, electric light poles. So between 2 poles, you walk at a brisk pace. When you get to the second pole, you slow right down and you just walk at a very low pace. And when you get to the next pole, you pick it up again. So you're up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. This is a very efficient way of actually burning calories. In one study, it was shown that people who started and stopped and started and stopped, this low intensity, high intensity, low intensity, high intensity, actually burnt more calories, right, than just staying at one pace. Think of it this way. You have a car in the, at least in the US, on the highways, you're going at a one pace, right? You will burn less gas than if you're in the city. Because you start, you stop, you start and stop, up and down, takes more energy to accelerate and then from a resting state. So this up and down actually helps. So interval training is a good tool to follow. In fact, it's probably safer for some people. You're starting out, you go at a slow pace for a little, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, then you up the pace, you're doing it for 5 minutes, and you get into a place where maybe getting a little winded, and then you go back down to a low pace. And then 5 minutes, and then come down. All right, it could be 4 minutes, 2 minutes down, 4 minutes up, 2 minutes down. So these intervals, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. So walking pace, high knees, jumping jacks, squats, leg raises, these examples of things that increased intensity, and then punctuated with low intensity, gentle exercise. And let's look at it, longevity. This is interesting, looking at years of life gain. And let's look at the exercise walking, 200 minutes, 400 minutes, 600 minutes. And as you can see there, as And then on the left, you see the years of life gain. And actually, you see the projections are what? Increasing. It's still going up. So exercise more. The more exercise, people just tend to live longer. Of course, it's going to benefit your blood sugar, your hemoglobin A1 levels. The longest periods we have generally in exercise studies is 90 minutes. And so 90 minutes is better than 60, better than 30, better than 20, better than 15. So start where you are and build up over time. Intermediate exercise, do a burst, slow down, burst, slow down, burst, slow down. That would be a healthy approach, and just get moving. So exercise is important. Television kills. All right. All-cause mortality, death from all causes combined. As your level of television viewing increases, the risk of death increases. As moderate to vigorous exercise increases, the risk of death decreases. So inactivity, television viewing is basically a marker of inactivity. And inactivity kills. In fact, it's worse than smoking. You were more likely die for inactivity than from smoking. So inactivity is a more dangerous risk factor than smoking. So think about that in those terms. You know, inactivity is worse than smoking. So we want to get moving. It's an important thing. So set goals. I will do intervals of walking and jogging for at least 20 minutes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now that is a clear goal. This is what I'm going to do. This is when I'm going to do it. All right. You can sign that contract. You can have someone who is holding you accountable to sign that contract to help keep you engaged, if that's what you need to help you out. I will weight train for at least 30 minutes on Tuesdays and Friday mornings, or resistance trainings before work. That's another example of a concrete goal. I would take a 2-mile walk after dinner 5 nights a week. So these are examples of goals. What about water? A diabetic patient sat in a hot tub with water up to their shoulders at a temperature between 100 and 106 degrees for 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week for 3 weeks. So they were just relaxing. And guess what? The average sugar dropped 23 milligrams per deciliter. Not only that, they improved sleep, improved general sense of well-being just by relaxing in a whirlpool tub. Heat therapy reduces fasting blood sugar, hemoglobin A1c, body weight, and body fat. So whether you go in a sauna or you sit off in a whirlpool tub, any form of heat therapy will help with blood sugar, hemoglobin A1c, weight, body fat. So these are good things, what we can do in terms of water. In one study, we talked about this in weight loss. Drinking 2 cups of water before the main meal for 12 weeks resulted in a weight loss of 3 pounds. So drinking 5 or more cups of water a day. Start the day with 2 cups. Hydrate 30 minutes before meals and at least 1 to 2 hours after meals if you don't want that to interfere with digestion. Very little with meals. The water has to be absorbed first before the solid food can be digested. Sunlight. Sunlight improves sleep habits, reduces stress, enhances positive mood, and reduces pain. All help to normalize blood sugar levels in diabetic patients. All right. So not sleeping well, stressed out, feeling pain, blood sugar levels higher. So Sunlight's good. Increased bright sunlight exposure may be associated with a reduced risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease by lowering blood sugar, blood insulin, and blood lipid levels. So sunlight helps to lower insulin levels and fat levels just by exposure to the sunlight. I'm telling you. NEWSTART really works. Temperance for self-control. A low-fiber, junk food diet high in saturated fat from animal products and processed hardened vegetable fats can increase body weight, reduce insulin sensitivity, and increase the blood levels of sugar and hemoglobin A1c. So unfortunately, the things we like the most are the things that actually make it impossible to have healthy blood sugar levels. So getting that balance, avoiding overeating of highly processed foods and sugar sweetened beverages, jogging down, sodas and all these sweet drinks. All of these foods compromise our blood sugar levels. You don't have the fiber, you have too much fat, too much sugar, too much of those things that actually create an addictiveness to, actually they are addictive in nature, working much like a drug will work in terms of overstimulating your neuronal pathways like drugs do, so that you create these abnormal cravings for things that are not healthy. So to fix that, we want to focus on more of the high fiber foods, right? And get that balance. Fresh air, deep breathing exercise can help prevent and/or reverse the release of stress brain chemicals that elevate blood sugar levels and increase insulin resistance. So you cannot do deep breathing and be stressed at the same time. So if you're breathing in, let's say I'm breathing in at a count of 5, then breathe out. Count to 5. Breathe in. Oh. Breathe out. Do it with me. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe normal. When you're breathing in, and you're breathing out, it helps with relieving stress hormones, helps lower blood sugar, lower blood pressure, helping insulin levels. Sleep, less than 7 hours, more than long hours, poor sleep quality, or increased levels of hemoglobin A1c. So you want to get between 7 and 9 hours of sleep, not less than 7, not more than 9. Those extremes result in poor sleep problems, which impact on hemoglobin A1c, blood sugar, insulin, everything. Insufficient sleep is a stressor, and the body responds to stressors by increasing stress hormones. So what we want is to get that sleep, get that exercise, do all of these amazing things, and they will help in modifying blood sugar levels, moderating it rather, and hemoglobin A1c. Sleep deprivation is associated with higher baseline insulin and blood glucose level increase, which increases insulin resistance. All right. And insulin resistance results in high blood sugar, results in diabetes. So sleep is a critical point. We need to know how to enhance our ability to sleep. It's affecting our sugars. So as you can see, NEWSTART is definitely a factor in all of this here. Sleep deprivation triggers activation of the sympathetic nervous system and cortisol release, which elevates blood sugar levels and insulin resistance. So this is what's happening. Cortisol, stress chemical, brain chemical, right? Sympathetic speeds up, parasympathetic slows down. So cortisol rising because we're not getting sleep. If we're highly stressed, cortisol rising. All of these things, elevating sugar, insulin resistance, creating these problems for us. So we want to get sleep. There's a hormone called leptin, which curbs appetite, decreases, while ghrelin, which stimulates hunger, increases. So this is what happens when we don't get enough sleep. Okay, that which benefits us is decreased, and that which harms us potentially increases. Stressing less, trusting more. It's all about trust in divine power. Stress triggers the activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Cortisol release, which we talked about, elevates blood sugar and all of this. Now we have a trusting, relationship with a God who cares about us. Proverbs 3 verse 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he what? Shall direct your path. If you believe that, if you entrust your life to him, he will take care of you. Be anxious for nothing. Philippians 4 verses 6 to 7 tells us, be anxious for nothing. That means don't worry about anything. But in everything, how many things? Everything. By prayer and supplication. Now, what does it mean? What does the word supplication mean? Well, supplication comes from the root word meaning supple. If I press my hand, it responds to my finger. If I let it go, it springs back. So supplication means the ability to what? To adjust. So we give everything to God and we pray with supplication, with how can I put it this way? We pray, and whatever God opens doors or closes as a result of this encounter, this prayer, whatever we're dealing with, we're okay with it. We're supple. We're not rigid. We're not defining how God should answer this question. We're trusting that he will answer it the best way. Maybe not what I thought, but I'm okay with the outcome, whatever outcome God decides it to be. So we pray with supplication. Now, with thanksgiving. So I pray believing that God's taken it into hand. So I am with, thank you, Lord. Thank you for taking this issue. I give it to you. I trust that whatever happens is for my good. So if you approach life this way, let your request be made known unto God, and what will happen, and the God of peace shall keep your hearts and minds by Christ Jesus. So you will have that peace. that passes understanding. Not because things work out the way you want them to work out, but because you've given it to God and you're confident that He's going to work it out what's best for you. So we can stress less and trust more, irrespective of what we encounter in life, by casting all our cares upon Him because He cared for us. I hope you've been blessed by what we have shared about some amazing principles that if we apply, they will have a dramatic impact on our blood sugars. Now, we didn't talk about herbs today, but there are herbs that also help. And one, I'll say in closing, is rosemary. Good old rosemary. One study was very helpful to help with blood sugar control. Let's end with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the way out, a solution to diabetes, the lifestyle, NEWSTART principles that you have given us. Help us to apply them and experience the healing and the restoration that comes as a result of following those laws of health. Be with us all and help us to apply these principles, to share them with others. And until next time, bless us, keep us, we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Dr. Gibbons. Wow, what a mouthful of information. You know, I was thinking this is information that you could make you rich, Dr. Gibbons.
Yeah. I sure hope it did. I wish it would.
Well, it's a lot of information to digest. We
Yes.
thank you for the fact that it is recorded. You can go back on the Somerset website. You can go there on YouTube and go over it. You can share the link because there are many of us who need this information and we can go back over it for ourselves. Again,
Yes.
we want to remind you to go to the Somerset Church website for materials and to the email email for further information and your questions. Please send your questions in to Dr. Gibbons. I want you to put your hands together for Dr. Gibbons. He has worked hard this morning sharing with us this information. Just give him some handshakes there, some hand claps there. And thank you, Dr. Gibbons, for the work that you are doing. We have reached the halfway mark. We're into the second portion of our meetings. So please don't get weary. Can someone turn their, Dr. Gibbons, can you turn your mic off, please? Thank you. Let's not get weary. We have 3 more presentations coming your way next week on the 15th of August. And don't forget, September the 4th, if I'm correct, September the 4th at 4 o'clock is a graduation. You want to be able to put in your quiz answers because we have prizes for each of these quizzes that you have gotten right. That is, we're going to choose one winner per week, all right? And you will get a prize. Not only that, you're going to all get a certificate for being with the process as you have registered with this meeting. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. Dr. Gibbons has had our closing prayer, and may the Lord bless you, give you the strength that you need, give us all the strength that we need to put these things into practice. All right. With that said, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from the other. And we thank you again, Dr. Gibbons, for this information. God bless you, everyone. Have a great Sunday today is our prayer.